Good evening, Vancouver. Welcome back for the first time in a while to Canucks After Dark. It is Monday, June 2nd. We are, I think, 2 days away from the Stanley Cup final, which somehow doesn't have any games on the weekend, I don't think. But we got that to talk about. We got a couple of things to talk about, but as always, joined by my co-host, Canuck Clay. How are we doing today, Clay?
Parker, I miss you, man. You all right? You all right?
All good. All good.
Well, if I think you'd be fine with me sharing this news that I wasn't able to share on my show last night because it wasn't official, but everything's great. I like the fact that we're together, and I like the fact that I'm going to have a new daughter-in-law. I can share that our son Sean proposed to his longtime girlfriend Francesca. Thankfully, she said yes. It was a beautiful surprise, sort of surprise in Whistler, and we are all over the moon. So thank you, Parker, and thank you, viewers, for allowing me to share that news. I'll talk about it more on my show tomorrow night, but yeah, I want to share that news with anyone that might not hear it tomorrow. So pretty excited, man. Pretty excited.
Congratulations. And it's,
Thank
you know,
you.
it's going to be a real, we can take that and turn this into a real show of positivity, right? We've got two of our favorite teams, the Edmonton Oilers and the Florida Panthers in the Stanley Cup final.
Yeah.
At least Abbotsford's doing well, but no, we've got a few things that we'll talk about tonight, just sort of as a mid off season. What's crazy, it's not even the off season yet. But we are, I would assume, 3 weeks away from the draft. I don't know the date, but it's always, around the 23rd-ish of June. So we'll have a little bit of lead up to that in a couple of weeks as well.
Yep.
And then, of course, we've got free agency about a month from now, which will be fun.
So it's almost like we took a bit of our 5-week break because, aside from, Adam Foote, the Canucks, there hasn't been a lot of news. So we could probably actually catch up on everything tonight. And I like what you said. Then if we go in the next 2 weeks, then that'll be the finals will be basically almost done. And then we can be looking at, draft preview, free agency preview. And then we'll probably go into a lull mid-July to late July, mid-August, because nothing happens. All the GMs go to their cottages, and then we'll be ready for September. So I think that's a pretty good plan. I think we're okay.
Yep. GMs to the cottages. Bob McKenzie making margaritas. It's a good time of the year.
Yeah, Parker on the golf course, and me.
Yes.
I don't know, just walking around Richmond.
Absolutely. So we got really, like we said, three things, right? Canucks wise, there was obviously, I think the last time we did a show, we called it the most dramatic team in the NHL because it sounded like Rick Tocchet was 1 foot out the door and we were about to get a decision. And I think we did like a week later. And then what was the other side of the drama that we were talking about? Was it just more? It was Tom Verlander, who has signed.
Okay, two big, good points.
Yes. So that drama is resolved. Both dramas are resolved. One resulting in the departure of a head coach that in a couple, or was it, I guess, 3 years here? One bad, one good, one bad.
Didn't they? Yeah, that's fair. Didn't they happen on the same day too? The Verlander, wasn't the Tocchet news broke in the morning, and then Verlander, I thought they signed him in the afternoon.
I don't know.
But I could.
It's been a while. 3 weeks ago what was the date? Do you remember the date that Tocchet left?
I do, only because I know we talked about doing a show, but I was on a plane somewhere, and we just
So Rick Tocchet was not returning as of April 29th. And then Verlander signed on May 14th, so 2 weeks apart.
Oh, gee, what was it?
That's what I was thinking. Like I didn't feel like they were close together.
Okay, something else happened on the May 14th day, though. Whatever. Okay.
Well, they named Adam Foote the 22nd head coach in history on May 14th. So you were on the right track.
Okay.
You were definitely on the right track.
And then I remember you were joking around. I said, man, I'd love to do a show with you tonight, Parker, but I can't, I'm going to be on the plane. You said, just live from 11F, seat 11F. That would be great.
Yeah. Big premium economy guy. No, I think, I also didn't feel like I had anything to say about it, because like obviously there's Rick Tocchet of being, having been gone for 2 weeks at that point. Right. And we sort of had an idea that was coming, and I think in the shows leading up to that, I'm pretty sure I said, I don't really know if I want him to stay or not.
You did say that.
Where I was sort of like, last year was great, but the fall off this year was painful. And it was a boring pain. right? It was
Yes.
a lot of games where they had 24, 25, 26 shots. And so did the other team, which is good defensively, but they didn't have the, carrying leads through the third period anymore.
Right.
And they were just, it never felt like they were going to score 3 in the third period very often until, of course, that second to last game of the year, which moved them out of the draft pick that I think ended up jumping up way in the lottery. So, there's some bad on that side, but on the Adam Foote front, like I think as of 2 weeks ago when it happened, I don't think I really had an opinion at that point yet.
Okay, but this is interesting because you're right. We did our show. Our last show was 5 weeks ago on April 28th. Then the first thing, like literally 12 hours after we went off the air, they announced that Rick Tocchet wasn't coming back. The rumors first, and then the confirmation, and then we haven't talked like on a show in those 5 weeks. So put them together for me, Parker. You might have an opinion now on Adam Foote now that you've seen other guys come off the board or you've heard his press conference or whatever. So take me through just quickly your Tocchet to Foote and how you're feeling right now.
Yeah, I think there's a couple different spots where I'm in, going like the losing Rick Tocchet side. Like I said, I don't think I don't think it's a huge loss just overall. Like I think he's a fine coach. Right. But I think there's other coaches out there that will do as good of a job. And then we had obviously the, who's it going to be segment, right? Where there's a bunch of names floating around and it really sort of sounded like it was down to Malhotra and Foote and a lot of, it sounded like Malhotra was the favorite to get the job for a bit. And then it just sort of came out like, nope, it's Adam Foote. And again, I don't really know if I have much of an opinion because his coaching history is spotty, right? I think is fair to say, right? The big one that everyone goes back and refers to was his time coaching in Kelowna, where I think they were really bad. And I think they were they were trying to be a contender and they made a bunch of trades and those trades didn't work out and he was the head of it and he got fired shortly after. And from there, so he had a season and a half in Kelowna, essentially, and then his only coaching job since then has been here the last 3 years as the assistant coach, really 2.5 years, right? Because he came on with Tocchet in 22. And then now he's getting that head coach role. And you look at his history, it's 2 years as a head coach in Kelowna, and then 4 years as a development consultant, like a D coach in Colorado. But that's it, right? Very light resume from a coaching perspective.
Yeah, that's a really, really good point. And then I think it was the GM or the president of the Rockets came out recently and tried to almost absolve Adam Foote from some of those sins. So does basically saying that was a long time ago. That was a difficult situation. I don't know. So good on him. I can't remember if it's GM or the president, but in essence, trying his best to help Adam Foote get a clean start. Oh, and thank you for the echo. I noticed you didn't have the headphones on, but I thought maybe I was talking too loud or something.
No, it's all good. I just turned you down on my side because I don't know where my headphones are, to be honest.
Perfect. What, you guys don't want to hear me twice? Come on. Maybe if I say half the stuff that's relevant, then it adds up to one. So yeah, all to say, it's interesting. I have a lot of similar feelings as you. I think I was more high on Rick Tocchet than you were, admittedly. I don't see how Jack Adams winner can suddenly forget how to coach. Not that you were saying that at all, but the more that I've kind of sat with it, and then when I heard him on Donnie and Dolly give that really honest interview where he kind of said a lot but didn't say a lot, and I just think, man, this whole not for us to relitigate it, but the whole Miller Patterson thing, I think it took such a energy out of the entire organization, all the way from Rutherford, all the way down to the coaching staff, training staff, players, like fans. I don't think we can overstate just how much of an impact it had. And Tocchet just looked tired, man, at the end of the season. So you bring in Adam Foote, who was here, who navigated that, or at least was privy to that. Maybe he can push a few buttons to get Pettersson going. He knows the system, and I think as all those things, man. I think they were trying to save a bit of money. I think they're trying to promote from within, and I guess the Malhotra didn't help that Abbotsford, which we're going to talk about later, is doing so well that you can't really pull him for a job interview when he's preparing for a conference final.
Yeah. On the other hand, though, I think you probably could, right?
Yeah,
You could
yeah,
probably, like,
yeah. 1-2 hour
because I
interview.
think
Yeah,
I'm
true.
sure they did, right? I'm sure they did sort of
Yeah.
interview him and get to that point, and especially with how successful they've been. We saw a lot of comparisons to the Capitals coach, right? Is it
Yeah.
Carberry, something like that?
Yes, Spencer Carberry. That's
who-
correct.
Yeah, who's also, I think he's the same age as Malhotra, and this is his first time, behind an NHL bench. But the other side of it was he was an AHL coach for like 5 or 6 years, right? And that's
Yeah.
something that Malhotra hasn't done. So Malhotra, I think, still sort of maybe has that next in line spot. If Adam Foote doesn't go well, right? I think it was stock 3-year contract for Foote.
That's
So,
correct. Yeah.
in reality, a 2-year contract, because that's how head coaching contracts work. Because they always extend into the 3rd year if things are going well. So at that point, Malhotra's probably looking at it as like he could jump ship, or he could, get more seasoning in the AHL, which I think is what they'd probably want. Even though there's probably going to be a couple teams that might be knocking at his door.
What's funny is Adam Foote
later on.
got 3 years at 1.5, Parker, which is 4.5, which is probably exactly what Talkett makes in 1 year, right?
Yeah, I think Taka got 5 or something like that, which is crazy.
By the way, thanks Swervin Irvin proclaiming his membership here for 6 months, which is awesome, and Fangirl Gaming member here for almost 3 years, which is it's got to be when we started actually offering this. So thank you to both of you for your support. Now that we've heard Adam Foote talk a little bit, and we know he's got to round out his coaching staff, and I have no clue who they're looking at for assistant coaches. Do you feel better, worse, or still the same? Just kind of meh.
I'm very open-minded.
Oh,
I
good.
would say I've got no real opinion. The fact that the number on the money side is low makes me feel like if the wheels are coming off, I think they could be quick to make a change if they needed to. Like if this team was like awful to start the season, like if they lose 10 of the first 13 games or something, then maybe everything just gets blown up right away. But I obviously I doubt that'll happen. I think we just have to go in with an open mind. Obviously, he's a defenseman, so you got to think, maybe it's going to be a defensive first. He had some offense when he was playing, though. Of course, he had
he was good.
30 points a couple of times. He's a heck of a player, but I'm wondering if it's just going to be same style, same systems, but new face. And what that's going to look like. It's we haven't really seen much of him, right? He had that press conference, which I don't think I watched. I don't know if you did, and if you have any insight from that.
The one insight, and thank you, Jay, for gifting a membership, and it goes to Brian Blingley Choice. So thank you, Jay. We appreciate you, and welcome, Brian. So the one thing that Adam Foote said a few times, it's kind of funny, actually. I'm not sure if anyone in the chat, if you remember watching this one when he spoke with, he did his press conference, and then he spoke with Chris Faber as well. But both times he kept saying like, but I'm not going to get into that right now, or I'm not going to tell you that right now. But the funny thing is, no one was asking him. So he was almost like this shroud of mystery that he was talking about, but no one was asking him anything strategic yet. They're just saying, what's your philosophy on this, or how are you going to navigate this? So I do like, he's very relaxed with the media. He seems approachable. He seems genuine, and we hear how much Rick Tocchet loved him. We hear how much all the players loved him. So I do think he'll be refreshed. I think he's got the right mindset, Parker, to deal with the Vancouver media, whether you call the media tough or not. Tocchet said it was very fair, that the media in Vancouver is very fair, Canadian market, blah, blah, blah. So, I think you can talk, though, as good of a game as you can. It's really exactly what you said. The proof is in the pudding, especially the first 2 weeks of the season. And one thing you said, Parker, that kind of really intrigues me. Is he going to play his defensive style because he's a defenseman? He was in charge of the defense, and that was our identity, or at least tried to be. Because remember whenever we tried to open it up a little bit last year, it would kind of come and bite us in the butt. Like we weren't great at opening it up and then closing it down, I guess. It was just weird, right? Every time those high-scoring games, it didn't turn out good. Yeah,
and I think that's because they had such a defensive system that when they strayed from that, the wheels came off a bit, right? And I wonder if you teach a more offensive style, then maybe when it gets to those shootouts, so to speak, it gets a little bit more in your favor. The big thing for me, and all I'm going to be looking for is obviously Elias Pettersson's the most important player on this team going into next year, right?
Yeah.
From because we know Quinn Hughes is going to be good, right? Like he's the most important player on the team, but like the most important thing for the Canucks making the playoffs again is going to be Elias Pettersson, right? Hughes will be a Norris candidate again, assuming he stays healthy. If Demko's healthy, that's obviously a big piece. But if Elias Pettersson becomes Elias Pettersson, this is a playoff team again. And, depending on what depth moves they make and what happens with Pius Suter and so on and so forth. And Brock Besser, of course. So, yeah, I think I'm going to be really interested to see what the offseason looks like, because I have to imagine he'll have some say in the construction of the roster. And that might give us some hints as to what his system's going to look like.
Sure.
Right? If you see guys like Besser get let go, but you get a much more like Suters and Joshuas and guys like that, well, then we're probably going to have a similar system to what we've had previously. But if he goes out and tries to get some guys with some offensive upside, think of like the Sprong signing, for example, but maybe a little bit less defensively of a black hole, somewhere in the middle. Then maybe that'll give us some inklings as well. But yeah, it's tough to say, right? Because you look at a guy who was a defensive defenseman and a defensive development coach, and is that like, what is his coaching philosophy, right? Like, is that going to be, is he going to go out there and be like, I'm a defenseman, defense first, or is he going to look at it and be like, yeah, I played defense and I played defense first, but that might not be how I think we're going to be best suited to win hockey games.
Right. And by the way, Parker, what's the only thing better than being a supporter here on Canucks After Dark is being a supporter twice. So Jay uses his other channel, They Slayed the Dragon, to become by his own support membership. So thank you, Jay, times 2. You're awesome. And then he comes in and he gives some membership, and it goes to Last Resort 318, which is kind of sounds like our hopes as Canucks fans. So thank you, Jay, for your generosity. Welcome, Last Resort. So here's another thing. We'll have time to get into free agency and targets, as we will probably do at least 2 more shows likely before July 1st. Having said that, Parker, you don't have to go one by one, Suter, Besser, Forbert, and we're starting to hear all these and see all these articles in The Athletic and Thomas Strand's talking about, you don't just need a second line center, you need an elite forward, Is there anyone, like, whether it's Ehlers or Roslovich or Rossi or Marner, is there anyone you can use any combination you want, like realistic, a pipe dream? Is there anyone that you want the Canucks, or you think the Canucks will actually get, like right now, that you can sort of say on June 2nd?
Yeah, it's a great question. Rossi's name being out there is very intriguing to me.
Yeah.
We're talking about a 23, and he missed a season, and he's a 60-point player, right? Like that's as a center, right? That's a 2C right there. The obvious downside is size, right?
Yeah,
because now up the middle you're getting pretty small, right? With like Pettersson's fairly thin, right?
Yep.
As your 1C, you'd have Rossi be fairly small as your 2C.
Yep.
It's that can be something that people might have an issue with. Personally, I don't care that much, because people are like, oh, you're gonna get pushed around by the Floridas of the world in the playoffs. Okay, let's get there. That would be a step at the very least. So Rossi's name is very interesting to me. I cannot imagine he'd be cheap to pry out of there. I think is he due for a contract, or does he have an extension already?
He is an RF. Yeah, you can look it up.
I'll get it for you.
Yeah, and while you're doing that, I'll say really quickly, thank you, Spartan, for the $2 donation. Could we do a Besser sign and trade for Bodie Rossi? So we'll get to that, Spartan. Is kind of what we're talking about now. Thank you. And Swerve and Irvin with the donation. Oh, yeah, Pat Quinn's teams were pretty offensive. Thank you, Swerve and Irvin. Thanks to both of you. All right.
Yeah, so he is a free agent, RFA, I should say, right? He's a restricted free agent. So he's just coming off of his deal at $900K.
Right.
Is that his entry level? Did it slide 1 year? It must have. Yeah. So he had his ELC that slid a year, so he had 4 years on that, and now he's an RFA. So he's technically, is he offer sheet eligible? I don't see anything that says he's not.
Oh yeah.
Qualifying offer, I don't know. I remember Cap Friendly was a little easier to see that part, but that's okay. Thanks, Washington. I think.
Thanks, Washington.
If you can, it's not gonna be cheap, right? Because he's an RFA and they have his rights. And if you did go the offer sheet route, it would probably be expensive, and you're probably giving up at least a first in draft pick compensation,
right?
and that would be next year's first if you did that, because that would be after the draft, and that's a scary place to be because who knows at that point.
Yeah.
But yeah, coming off a 60-point season, 24 goals, 36 assists, and last year he had 40 points, 21 goals, 19 assists. So back-to-back 20-goal seasons. He is their number 2 center. His underlyings are good. Of course, he's right around 50-51. He's a good hockey player.
So why don't the Wild like him?
Is it a cap issue there?
Yeah,
because they're paying. Let's take a quick look. What's their cap space look like?
I thought they got out of those
about
weird penalties though. Yeah.
They have $16 million in cap space. They don't really have many free agents though, like Gus Nyquist, but whatever. He's 35. John Merrill, Declan Chisholm. Like, they've got no free agents really. Travis Boyd, Tyler Madden is apparently in their system now.
What? They have Boyd and Madden?
Yep. So I don't know, because they've got cap space, unless they're trying to extend Kaprizov, but he already makes $9 million till the end of next year, so they could extend him, but like he's getting much more than the 9 he's currently at when the cap's going up. Like, that's probably not a big difference maker. And I don't really think they're going to be extending Zuccarello, because he's still got a year left, and he's not going to be making more money after this contract. Right. So
Tyson says Wild have to save money for the extension for Kaprizov, which is fair, but you're right, that's not this season.
Right, but Kaprizov had, he had 56 points, 41 games. He's a 100-point player. Like, he's really, really good. 40 goal scorer 3 times over, and he would have been last year as well. Yeah. So what is he going to make? 12 and a half? So, maybe 13. That's $4 million more than he currently makes, right? That's not a huge lift on your cap, especially because the cap's going to go up by at least that much that season.
Right. Can you do a sign and trade if you're signing just for that extra year, $8 million times 8, yikes, and then trade him to Minnesota?
Yeah, and actually, here's what I'll find. So, this is from today. Rossi's beefy contract demand is a roadblock. So he's asking for too much money, they say. Rossi's camp is looking for a contract similar to Matthew Boldy's. Now, Matthew Boldy signed in 2023-24. He signed a 7x7.
Right.
And Boldy's always a great player, right? He's their first line right winger. He's got, he had 73 points last year, 69 points the year before. So he's a 70, 80 point guy. Rossi wants that same amount. He's 1 year younger, so contract signing time is pretty similar. But Rossi has, not as great of stats, and he's smaller is what I can see. So let's just go in a vacuum and say let's take the trade aspect out of it and say, would you sign Marco Rossi at a 7x7 if he was a UFA?
Wow, the jump from $900,000 up to $7 million, eh?
But that's term. That's through his entire prime.
Right.
So you are betting a little bit that he's going to go from the 60-point player he is now, because he went from 40 to 60, which is a good jump, but that's a reasonable jump for a 23-year-old or 22-year-old to a 23-year-old, right? We see that all the time.
Yep.
Elevated role, number 2 center. 7x7. Clearly the Wild are hesitant to do that.
Yeah.
It's a gamble, but is that a gamble that you would make?
I would. I wouldn't go much more than 7. 7 seems like a lot now compared to like that would make him like the third highest paid forward on our team or whatever, or second. But if you're locking him in at 7 and this cap is supposed to go up as much as that, might look like a decent, I wouldn't say amazing, but that could be decent value for sure.
Yeah. I don't think I'd hate it, because I'm thinking, when he's 26, right? A lot of these, like, you're looking at like 7-8 year deals on a lot of guys, and you're like, year 7 of that contract's going to suck, right? Because the guy's going to be 34 and he's on the decline and he's got a full no move. But here, year 7 of a 7x7, he's 30.
Yeah,
right.
That's true.
And he's playing for a new contract at that
point. A new
contract.
So that's right.
It's an interesting place to be, where $7 million is less than it was last year, right? With the cap going up. And I don't usually like that argument because the cap goes up for every team and
For
every,
everyone,
you know,
yeah.
every player is going to want a piece of it. So it's not as big as it feels. But, you know, 4 years from now, that 7 probably isn't like, that's probably pretty normal 2C numbers,
Right.
you know, 4 years from now, let's say. And if he takes another step in his game, which isn't guaranteed, but it's possible, right?
Yeah.
If he takes a step to be a 75-point player in a couple of years, then you're probably getting pretty good value for that.
Sure.
So I think I'd be okay with giving him 7x7. The problem is there's also an acquisition cost that you have to pay to pry him out of Minnesota.
Right. Okay. Well, I think we'll have plenty of time, but I think both of you are hitched on the Rossi train at least, so that's kind of cool. We'll see where that progresses. I'm sure we're not the only team, at least, kind of thinking about him. I think just mapping out our show, we could talk about anything else about the Canucks. Oh, the Verlander. Yeah, we could talk about Verlander for a couple minutes. So, you know how you and I were both kind of scratching our heads, wondering is $200,000 or $300,000 really the difference here, really the stumbling block? And I guess it was. But then they said, forget it, we'll just do it.
Which is crazy they didn't do that earlier, but sure.
It's so silly.
They saved a bunch of money from not keeping Tocchet around, and I guess they could open the pocketbook a little bit.
Well, that's true. That's true.
Yeah, that is wild.
So spitballing, and I admittedly, I've seen highlights, I've watched him play a little bit, but I'm not a Tom Verlander expert. Brings a different skill set than Mancini. Mancini is a little more unbridled, kind of Jovanovski-esque, high risk, high reward. At least that's what I see, even in Abbotsford. I think Verlander's his not as burly as say Mancini, but really good length, really good gap control, great skater. Used to be a forward. We know that story. So could we possibly see Mancini and Verlander battling for that third pairing spot behind Hronek and Myers, at least for next season? Or is it not going to be a battle? Or do they bring in a third veteran to fill that out?
I think I'm always of the mind going into camp that every roster spot is available.
Okay.
Right. And obviously there's except like Quinn Hughes isn't going to lose a battle to anybody. Right. But, you know, when I look at that, I'd sort of like, you know, and we talked about this a couple of years back where the Canucks had a lot of, you know, it was when they signed Bluger and a bunch of guys that offseason. And I sort of looked at it and I was like, well, you've got a lot of guys who are sort of at that in-between level, right?
Sure.
And you can do that here as well, right? Where if you've got, you know, maybe your first two set on the left side and then your sort of 3, 4, 5 is all a question mark, even just on the left, right? And you have one guy who's going to play every day, one guy who's going to sit in the press box, and one guy who's going to the AHL or getting traded. When you have 3 or 4 guys like that, you just need one guy to take a step, right? Who's going to be the, you know, you could look at them and all 3 of them you could slot in any night and it's going to be about the same, but maybe one of them elevates their game in training camp to try to steal that spot and becomes a really solid third pairing D-man. It's interesting to think about. I mean, Mancini he's got that it factor a little bit, right? Where like you see him, I saw that clip of him just skating through the whole team in Abbotsford the other night. But like he's big and he throws the body around and you know, I could see him being a fan favorite if he's able to pull that spot and stick around. Verlander's interesting to me because obviously he's young, right? You know, is this you know, he's 20-year-old defenseman, you know, start to break in to the league. Yeah. Is this the year that he does, or do they season him for a year in the AHL? Right. And again, I think you go into camp and you say, look, if you earn it, you're in, but you have to earn it.
Yeah. I just love Parker, if Hughes somehow stays and then let's say Myers retires or doesn't, whatever, after his last season. So you could be looking at a decor of Hughes, Marcus Pettersson, Hronek, if they don't move him, DPD, Kudratsev, Verlander, Mancini. That's pretty good.
It's good if those last couple of guys are good.
That's true. Yeah, you said that to me last. You said that to me last show too. I remember.
Really bad if everyone turns out to not be good. Then we're in a lot of trouble with those guys.
I just had a major deja vu. You said that to me last time too. Yes.
Because remember when we thought, you know, Cole Castles was going to shut down Connor McDavid every night, but now if we had Cole Castles in our lineup, we'd have a big problem.
That's
Cole
fair.
Lind, another name that you know, he's not doing anything.
Cole Lind ran Archer Shilovs at the end of game 2, and look what he did to him. Then they won.
I know.
Oh man. Oh, by the way, did you go to any of those 2 games?
Not yet. No,
Yeah.
I might try to go to one of the later ones, but
Yeah, I was
we'll
looking
see.
at that too. Yeah, that's where we met. We should do it again.
Yeah.
Run it back. Okay, maybe that's a good segue. Let's talk about the Abbey Canucks for a few minutes here. So Western Conference Finals against the Stars, and 2-1 now because Texas won. Was it today? No, yesterday. No,
Tonight.
today.
Yep.
Yeah. Was it a blowout tonight? What was the final score? Like 5-2 or something?
5-2, I think.
Okay, it's fine. We're still up 2-1. I like
Yeah,
it.
I don't. Yeah, I'm not super in tune. You know, I see the
Yeah.
posts on
Yeah.
the subreddit whenever I open it up and
Yeah.
you know get a little bit of a refresher.
Yeah.
But no, like it's good that you know having that. Like I mean, you look at some of the guys that are playing, right? Like there's some good players there, and there's guys who you know you're hoping can take a step and make it to the NHL level. That's the most interesting thing to me. And of course, just having the team in Abbotsford, like Utica was competitive, right?
Yeah.
Back in the day,
Yeah.
but we didn't care because they weren't here, right? So having the team local is good, especially with this team being out of it. But yeah, I haven't been super in tune with it. But obviously, I'm hoping they win. And I'm hoping they make the final because then I'll get my way out there.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think the one guy I do want to ask you about is Shilovs. Before that, though, whether it's Mancini, Lekker-Mackie, Linus Karlsson, like guys that we think will have a legitimate shot of making the team next year. And I'm not even talking about like death players like Sasson and all those guys. This can only help, right? This really good experience playing in deep into a playoff run. It's good. It's good because it just gives them a bit more fire-tested, metal that they come up coming to training camp. So I think that's all good. The interesting thing to me, Parker, is the whole Archer Shilovs thing because we know he was thrust into like 10 games this season because Demko wasn't ready for the first half of the year, and Shilovs was really bad. Like let's call a spade a spade. So thank God Lankinen was good, and then Shilovs so actually Tolopilo plays more games than Shilovs because Shilovs is 1/3 of the season with the Vancouver. Then he goes down and he's played up until today lights out in the playoffs. Like he only allowed 22 goals in 14 games, which was pretty amazing. So my question to you, and I talked about it on my show last night, but I'd love to hear your thoughts. Does Shilovs? I just think the goaltending thing is very fascinating because Demko is extension eligible on July 1st, and we don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah. Just on Shilovs first. I mean, regular season in the NHL wasn't good. Came down to Abbotsford, put up a 908, like respectable numbers. Again, you got to remember he's 2001 birthday, so he's 24, which is around the time you want that goalie to start making that step. But yeah, obviously playoff performer, right? Even after tonight allows 5 goals on 36 shots, right? So not his fault the team wasn't in this game.
Yes.
So, an 861 tonight, but you look at it and he, still has a 934 in the playoffs, right? 10 wins, 5 shutouts that's a third of his games have been shutouts, which is, it's unbelievable. Especially, a couple of series clinchers. It was all 3 series clinchers, I think, were shutouts. Yeah, he got a shutout against Tucson in round 1, shutout against Coachella Valley in round 2, shutout against Colorado in round 3, and then obviously this is round 4 because they play 5 rounds of the playoffs.
Yes.
So that's it's impressive. But I'm looking at obviously if we're talking about next year and going forward, Thatcher Demko is way too important to this team to do anything other than keep him around, I think. Lankinen was great last year, lost some steam near the end, and I really see him as a 1B. I just don't think he's a 1A.
Right.
But if you can have Demko if you can have Demko start 50 and Lankinen start 32, I think you're in a really, really good spot. Because then, in the playoffs, if you need Lankinen for a game, I'm okay with that. It's no, I don't think that this team can, because I don't think you're getting much for Demko if you get rid of him. Really, the only risk is injury risk and having cap space wasted. But for this year, he makes 5. I really wonder what an extension looks like for Demko because he just hasn't played enough games to earn a huge raise. But he's also been, when he's healthy, a top 5 goalie in the league and probably should be getting paid like $9 million a year
Yeah.
when he's healthy. When he's not healthy, he shouldn't be getting paid if you sort of balance it that way. And now you're talking maybe like a $6 or $7 million goalie. And I think at that number, I think I need him to be here for a little bit longer.
Yeah, and you make such a good point about whether it's his injury history or whether it's because you don't think you're going to be able to extend him. Regardless, trading Demko, you're not going to get much for. You never get much for goalies. We've talked about this all the time. They're the one position where it's. I'm not going to say dime a dozen. That's not the fair way to say it. But the market simply is not good. You never recoup well for a goalie trade. So, and you can't sit here and say trade Sheelovs because he hasn't done anything in the NHL yet. So, I think it's one thing to say, oh, there's too many goalies here, blah blah blah. We got to trade one, but you're only doing that if you got to recognize you're not going to get fair market back. So I'm with you, Parker. I would love, especially if this management wants to go all in and erase the stench of last season. They're going to need those two guys and not any combination of Demko Sheelovs or Lankin and Sheelovs. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Edmonton, Florida. Oh, sorry. You first.
I had one more thing on the Abbotsford Canucks. Is Linus Karlsson just sick? Like, is he just a player now? Because he's got a point a game, 8 goals, 7 assists. Yeah. He's been their best player, at least up front. You compare that to someone like Lekkermäki, who struggled in the postseason here, which is 5 points. I think Linus Karlsson I think he's trying to make the roster next year. He's only going to be 26 at the start of next season.
Yeah. Yeah.
Could be a decent fourth liner for us.
And pretty sure he will not be waiver exempt either. So if he makes the team, he makes the team.
Yeah.
I don't know that for sure. I'm pretty sure because of age. Yeah, he was good. I really liked him, Parker, at the end of last season. I like the fact that he showed some skill and he wasn't afraid to go to the front of the net. That's the one thing I noticed. I remember some of his goals were from both him and Ratu. I think Karlsson maybe Ratu's a lot younger, so I was going to say Karlsson is more upside. That's not true. Ratu has the bigger ceiling, but Karlsson looked like the more ready-made player last year. I agree with you that he could make the team this year. Like I would take him over Niels Aman. I don't know. He just seemed a little more noticeable than Aman did.
I think that's fair. Yep.
Yeah. Karlsson's a righty too, right? Okay.
I think so.
I don't know.
Yeah, he's a right winger.
Yeah, he's good. He's good. To me, it's him, Lekkermäki, and it's Mancini that, maybe we're not saying anything earth-shattering here, but I think those three guys, they're going to provide some cheap depth for the team next year, for sure.
Excellent. All right. Finals?
Let's do it.
All right. Well, let's, postseason so far, obviously we haven't really talked. Who were your rooting interests going in? What was what are your thoughts on just the overall postseason so far?
I thought the first round was great. There's drama in every series, the Toronto series, the Edmonton series, the Calgary, the Colorado series,
Winnipeg.
but yeah, the Winnipeg, everything. Yeah, the crazy comebacks. So I thought the place was being really good, and what was interesting to me, Parker, is in my own little hockey pool that I run, I had my vote with my heart team, and that's my favorite teams of Colorado and Tampa. Well, that sucked. Those two teams were out in the first round, and then I did say though that whoever won Colorado, Dallas would play against whoever won Tampa versus Florida. I only got half of that right because I did not predict Edmonton to basically motor through Vegas and then Dallas in the way that they have, because Stuart Skinner, it's crazy. Calvin Pickard is 6-0. Like Pickard hasn't lost yet. I get why you go back to Skinner, and Skinner's been great. I'm torn because I want to actually take a stand and predict here. I still don't know. I go back and forth, and it doesn't matter who I want to win, who I think is going to win. I'm really torn. I really am.
Yeah. It's two teams that, Florida ran into a little bit of trouble against Toronto.
Yeah.
But they walked all over Tampa. They walked all over Carolina. Yeah. Right? And then you look at Edmonton. They had a scare against LA, but then they walked all over Vegas. They walked all over Dallas.
Yeah.
These are two teams that, Edmonton has lost 4 games. Florida's lost 5. So they've only played, 17 and 16 games apiece. Yeah. So they should be relatively fresh. right? And they had a decent amount of rest here because they don't play till Tuesday or Wednesday.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So yeah, like I think these are two teams that are scary. Florida to me is more playoff built, as we saw last year. But like Edmonton's just got gamers, man. Like that goal McDavid scored the other day was just like, it was like, what are you supposed to do? Like he
nothing.
Just do that, and it's.
Does it feel like it's McDavid's time to you? Because for me, it's kind of like that. And I know there are a lot of people out there who want to see the best player in the league, i.e. McDavid. They want to see him win, whether it's for his legacy or to cement that he's good. Blah, blah, blah. I don't need to see that, but I am intrigued to. I don't dislike McDavid. I think he's he's a very good player, and I don't mind him. I dislike the Calgary players more. But I kind of feel like it's his time, and this is the year now, especially after seeing all those memes and remember him blowing up in the dressing room last year. I kind of feel like it's his time. I don't know.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from. It does.
Yeah.
I do get a bit of that feeling as well, and it is because they just walked through the last two rounds. Like I thought that Dallas Edmonton series, I'm like, this thing's going 7. This is gonna be awesome.
Yeah,
and it wasn't really close. Florida, to me. Like it's probably because I don't really care about Carolina, so I didn't really watch the Eastern Conference final games because we sort of knew that like Florida was going to have their way with them a little bit, and Carolina again 2 easy series to get to the Eastern Conference final and they shut down. It does feel like Edmonton's got a little bit of extra steam, and I don't really know why that is. This entire playoff, I came in and I said there's 2 teams I don't want to win, and that's Toronto and Edmonton. Right. Those are the 2. And I'll be honest, Game 7 of round 2, Florida-Toronto, that was a great night. It was a very fun night.
Did you watch the game? Did
you watch the game? I had people over. We were laughing. It was great. I hate to say it. I don't care as much now that we're at the final. Like I don't want Edmonton to win because they're a division rival, and there's the part of me that says like I don't really want a Canadian team to win it till we do because I want us to be the one to break it.
Yeah.
But I'm also like I've soured a little bit on Florida this playoff, just from their play style a little bit. I don't know. They've been a little bit over the line at times. And man, I hate how much I like watching Connor McDavid play hockey. Like I just watch the way he plays, the way he skates. It's so fun to watch. So I don't know if I'm really cheering for anyone. I think I'm going to do my standard cheering for Game 7. Whichever team's down in the series is who I'm going to root for on a given night. Yeah. And I want to see Game 7 overtime. And that would be my dream.
You articulated that very well, actually. I think you properly said somehow how I was feeling about this whole McDavid thing, too. You look at the Florida roster, Parker, and they got guys like Bennett, Marchand, Tkachuk, Reinhardt, that kind of on the edge, sometimes over it. Then they got some skill guys, obviously like Barkov, who won the Selke today again, and Verhaeghe, who's Barkov has 2 penalty minutes. Verhaeghe has 4. So so you got that spectrum, and then you got the other end of the spectrum. But and then Forsling and Ekblad, of course, on the back end. So to me, Florida isn't. I cheered for them last year, quite frankly, because I was anti-Edmonton. I'll be very honest. This year, I wouldn't say I don't care, but I don't care who wins.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah.
Again,
I'm here for narratives. I'm here for storylines. And my opinion could change 2 games in, right? I could see the way that something happens, and I'd be like, I don't want them to win anymore, right?
Yeah.
There's the Luongo factor, but he got it. He won it, so I don't. That's less of a factor now.
Yeah.
They got it last year. Again, like the division rival thing is tough for me, being Edmonton, but I also there's a little bit of national pride, especially lately, and then Florida did just win, and part of me is like I want less teams to win because I want it to be more what we do, but also I think if Florida wins, it's like, okay, they're a problem, and they're on the edge of a dynasty at that point, right?
Yeah.
But it's like, man, why do all the dynasties have to be in Florida lately? Like, because I just feel like it doesn't mean as much when a Florida wins or a Tampa wins, right? Even you compare it to, and it's not like an American thing. Like you compare it to, if a team like Boston won or Chicago or Washington, someone in that area, like Detroit, where it's a huge deal. There's just that Florida doesn't hit the same. Whereas if Edmonton wins, that city is shutting down for a week.
Sure.
Right. And it's everything there.
Check it out, Parker. It's Podkolzin and Stetcher versus Schmidt and Gadjevich with a little bit of Forsling, who never played for us, but I know that still hurts. But so there's 4 or 5 ex-Canucks in this series.
Yeah. And you know what? I'd like to see Stetcher lift the cup too, right?
Yeah.
It's Richmond boy.
Yeah, of course. And you're fine with Podkolzin?
Yeah, whatever. He didn't do anything wrong, really.
Yeah, he didn't do anything.
Wasn't as good as we needed him to be.
Yeah, I'm kind of in listening to you talk, and like I said, articulate what I was feeling too. If I had to pick, I'm not saying this is who I want to win. It might be the Oilers in 7 for me.
If I'm predicting, I think I'm still taking Florida.
Okay.
I think I'm taking Florida in 7.
Okay.
But I don't think I'd be upset either way, as long as if it's a sweep, I'm gonna be sad.
Yeah. I don't think
even if it's 5, I'm gonna be sad. Like I need it to be like at least a 6 OT or a game 7.
And it's reversed this year, right? Edmonton's home ice advantage, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Somehow. Well, yeah, I guess they were both 3rd in their division, which is crazy.
Oh, weird. So then what? You go by points. I mean, you go by points anyways, right?
It's by points regardless, I think. But
yeah.
Where did they? Let me get stats. Is that
Didn't
where it
Edmonton?
is?
No, didn't Edmonton? Oh yeah, you're right. No, Edmonton came 2nd, didn't they?
I don't know. It says D3 next to their thing in the the NHL.com.
I guess you're right.
Standings. Why is this taking so long? There we go. Yeah, the Kings finished ahead of the Oilers. Kings had 105 points. Oilers only had 101.
Florida.
But then Florida had 98.
Okay.
So yeah, Edmonton gets home ice.
Yep.
Because they obviously had a great middle of the season. Yeah, I think again. Yeah, I just want to go deep. That home ice will help though, for sure.
Yeah, I could do without La Bamba.
Yeah, that's fair. I also haven't I don't think I've watched a ton of Edmonton games actively.
Okay.
Like I watched a lot of the Winnipeg St. Louis and Winnipeg I watched Game 6 Winnipeg Dallas.
Yeah.
But the Oilers series, they just haven't been close. So I haven't been I got to turn on the Oilers game because they're up 3-1 in the series again. And they're way ahead. They were never really at risk. Neither team was. It was just, sort of a walk. I also haven't watched any Florida games except for the Toronto ones because that was a close series. Right. So if we were talking about Winnipeg, right, then I would have watched a bunch of Winnipeg games, but I really haven't watched much of Edmonton games. It's more of there's nothing on TV. I'm going to throw it on.
Yeah, that's fair. That's very fair. Okay. Very good. So if you had to pick, you're saying Panthers in 7 and I'm saying Oilers in 7 without neither of us have a dog in the fight though. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very good. Very, very good. Okay. We're at the 10 minutes to end mark. Do we answer some questions?
I've got one more question for you. We talked about Marco Rossi.
ready.
We're taking this back to the Canucks.
Yep.
Another name floating around is Pavel Zacha
Yes.
as a 2C potential option.
Bruins, right?
Yes. And he's got... Oh, I opened it on the wrong website. Where's Puckpedia? The only good one. Puckpedia. So he's got 2 years left on his contract.
Yeah.
$4.75 million. So much more reasonable hit than Rossi would be. 47 points last year, but he had 59 the year before and 57 the year before that. So a bit of a down year last year.
Yeah.
Boston they're kind of out of it, right? They're, falling apart a bit. Overall thoughts? Something you think we could pull?
Yeah. Is he, I should probably know this. He's larger, right?
He is 6'4", 207.
Oh, yeah.
He's more two-way. Like he's good
Sign
in the
me up.
face-off circle. Yeah, he's the opposite, right? Of
Right,
Rossi,
yeah.
where he's a little bit less offensively talented, a little bit cheaper, but better defensively. I wonder what the acquisition cost for something like that would be, though.
Yeah, I did see him in an Athletic article earlier where they were talking about different guys they could go after. And both Rossi and Zaka were in that. Kotkaniemi was in that article too. I can't stand that guy. Well, anyway, that's for another show. Zaka, this doesn't make any logical sense. I would love him, the way you explained it, I love him to be our 3C. Give us some size and some two-way ability, but I don't know if that money makes. Do you know what's his contract right now? You might
475
475
for 2 more years.
2 more years.
And then he'll be a UFA 30 years old. He's 28 right now.
Right. Ah, heck, if we're not bringing Besser and Suter back, then yeah, put that money at Rossi and Zaka then. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't mind Zaka. I don't mind that. I don't know a lot about him, obviously.
I just don't know what the acquisition cost would be.
Yeah.
It's a tricky one.
But the size thing with Petey and Rossi down the middle, yeah, you kind of wish that they would just, you can't hit what you can't catch kind of thing, but I don't know. Maybe that is a little small.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Good job. Good catch up.
Shall we go to the people?
Let's do it.
Do people got questions? I'm gonna scroll up here. People
Yeah,
talking about
Cody did
Sammy
say
Blais.
Cody did say La Bamba is annoying, but it's for that kid Ben that passed for them. Probably not the best thing to say. No, I'll stand by what I said. The song's still annoying. I can say that while understanding the story of that Ben kid. I did not know though that it's only for him. Whether that was before him, but I understand what you're saying as well, Cody too. So thank you for bringing that up. Line Change says this: I'm with Parker. I have no interest in the finals. I'm more interested in Abbotsford. And thank you for the donation, Tyler. What about you?
I think I do have interest in the finals. I just don't care who wins necessarily. But like I want it to be like, the thing is, if one team's up 3-0, like I'm probably not watching game 4 until there's 5 minutes left to see them win. Right.
Yeah,
But if it's, if it's 3-2 and we're going to game 6, like I'm sitting down and I'm watching, right? Like it's a different, they need to sort of earn my eyes, right? Like it needs to be a series, because these teams have it. Like Florida has had one series worth watching so far against Toronto. Edmonton really hasn't had a series worth watching. They just had too easy of a path there. Not their fault, right? That's good on them. But like I haven't been interested except for like game 1 against LA when it was, or I don't know if it was game 1. It was one of those games against LA where it was a disaster back and forth that, LA blew that lead, or someone blew that lead. But yeah.
Yeah. Would you be more interested, like, and I'll answer this too, if there wasn't a Canadian team? So let's say it was Dallas versus Florida. Would you be more or less interested?
I think I really don't know. It'd probably be similar, because two teams I don't really care about. I think I would be cheering for Dallas though, like pretty easily. I'm very confident in that. Just like if it was Winnipeg there, I'd be cheering for Winnipeg.
Right.
Most teams really.
Like
I think looking at both sides of the bracket, Florida is probably my second least favorite option now because they won last year.
Sure.
Toronto would have been who I would be cheering against more. But like Washington, I would be okay with. Even Carolina, right? They play some, not super exciting hockey, but they haven't wronged me in any way. And then Edmonton, looking like, I think if it was Vegas, I think I'd be cheering for Florida. I think I could say that pretty confidently as well. But Edmonton, I don't know why I dislike Edmonton a little less than Vegas right now.
Yes. Okay, that's fair. That's fair. And Viper says, I hope Florida sweeps. Cody says, Edmonton fatigue is getting to us. I get why some people won't have interest. Clint says, do we have dead money? Unfortunately, we do.
OEL.
In fact, it's worse. This is coming up. I'm just looking at, OEL's cap hit for us for the next 2 years, 4.8, Clint. So 4.8 million for the next 2 seasons, and then back down to 2.1. So we have 4 more years of OEL money. And we have 1 more year of Ilya Mikheyev at $712,000. So we have $5.5 million in dead money next season.
Yeah. Mikheyev.
Yeah.
What a player, man. Well, they didn't do good this year too. He had 34 points this year. I guess he had 31 points with us last year. Just this year, he learned how to score goals.
Yeah,
because no one else in that team knew how.
yeah, it was tough. It was tough. Yeah, a bunch of people answering the OEL, which is good. Edmund, nice question. Are you surprised at the lack of Canucks news? I'm not, because the head coach, to me, that's a big piece of news, and then there's a trickle down effect. Then you assemble your coaching staff, and then you can properly prepare for the draft and free agency. Well, management's doing that anyways, but that's such a big piece of news. I still think they're making decisions on Besser and Suter. What do you think?
Yeah, I think if you look at any team, there's been no news for the most part.
Yeah.
Right. Like there's a little rumors floating around that a couple teams will be involved in, but
Sure.
no team's really making the news right now until we get to, until about 2 weeks from now, right? Right around when the finals start to wrap up, you'll start seeing stuff, and then it's a frenzy before the draft to fit everything in, and then free agency. I think everyone's just getting their ducks in a row and getting ready. Especially now, we had a month ago, there was 16 teams left, and then a week ago there was still 4, and now there's only 2, right? So now you have Dallas getting into the mix in the market. You have Carolina getting into the mix in the market. So now you have most of the players at play, but you're still going to want to see what Florida and Edmonton are going to want to do in the offseason as well, right?
Sure.
Especially when you have teams like Dallas where you got guys like Jason Robertson's name floating around now, right? Because of what Pete DeBoer said. Maybe that's part of it, but maybe also other reasons. And it's like imagine if a bunch of teams were making moves, but like in the last couple of weeks, just to get ready for the draft, and like, oh man, wait, Jason Robertson was going to be available. That's it's a franchise defining player. That so there's teams like to wait till the picture gets a little bit clearer, and then we have that mad dash to the draft. Yeah,
whatever shows on Sportsnet 650 at 9:00. It's Foote. They always have Friedman on. Friedman was saying that he's heard from a couple of GMs that they expect this offseason, as soon as the finals end, leading up to the draft and free agency, they said it's going to be crazy. Like, get ready for a lot of. So it's fine with me, fine with us. That's good.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Well, yeah, especially because every team's not every team, but a lot of guys have UFAs that might sign. Right?
Yeah,
there's other teams with Pius Suiters and Brock Bessers out there.
Good point.
Right? That and are you gonna go make a bunch of trades, or maybe you want to see who's gonna be on the market before that happens. So
good point.
A lot of questions floating out there.
All right, last 4 questions. We'll go fast. First one: prospects of the Canucks buying out PD's contract if things don't go well. I say 0% chance.
0%.
Yeah, you agree?
Yep.
Edmund, do you think Canucks may trade one of their D-men to really address the 2C? If it were up to you, which D-men you think Alvin would part with?
I don't know what else you're going to trade, frankly, right? You've built the D as a position of strength, and now your second line is a point of weakness, right?
Yeah.
2C, you've got Hedl, but Hedl obviously has health concerns, and he's probably on the lower end of where you'd want your 2C to be, but a fine player, right?
Yeah.
You could survive with him as your 2C. And in that case, you want to either want to get a 2C who's really good, and maybe you move Hedl for a winger, or you move Hedl to the wing, or do something along those lines as a second liner. And to do that, what else are you going to trade, right? Really, your options are prospects,
first rounder,
and
first rounder,
and your defense. And I look at, I don't see Hughes, Hronik, or Pettersson going anywhere. Marcus Pettersson, right? I don't want to see guys like Elias Pettersson get traded, but I also, if it's getting you a bona fide young 2C, that's going to have a lot of value back.
You think a first rounder and, for instance, a DPD gets you a 2C, or do you got to do more?
I think it should.
Yeah, me too.
I really think it should. I think. I think number 2 centers should be around a first round pick. That just feels right to me. So that's what I would expect.
Sure. Last 2. Who do you prefer as Foote's next assistant coach? I'm kind of hoping that they get a guy that kind of falls out of the head coaching interviews. I know Mitch Love's name was up there, but it sounds like he might not get a head coaching job. I don't know. I'm just throwing that name out because I just like saying Mitch Love.
Yeah. It's I really don't know, and assistant coaches are weird because it already is kind of tough to tell what impact head coaches have at times, right?
Yes.
Like system wise, you can see their system, but if the team has a bad game, how much that was coaching versus just players not showing up, and how much of the coach's job is it for those players to show up? I think assistants, it gets even murkier. You know, teams will be like, oh, this guy's in charge of the power play and our power play's clicking at 16%. He's the problem. Well, it's like, well, maybe, but maybe not, right? From our perspective, we don't have a ton of that info. So yeah, it's.
And last question.
Any thoughts?
Sure. And this is great because we started this whole, when I shared the news about Sean, his engagement, and you said that would be a good start to our show because of the positivity and the optimism, because that's a good news story. So we'll end off with this question. What's your level of hope for the 2025-2026 season?
So you're gonna try to shoehorn me into being extra positive.
No,
right?
you do whatever you want. You do whatever you want, brother.
It's really tough for me to tell before. Like, this team's gonna look so much different in 35 days from now, right? Like 5 weeks from today, this team is going to look markedly different, and I'll be able to have a real opinion.
That's fair. That's fair.
But this management group at times has frustrated me, but I do feel like they've typically done a fine job at filling out a roster, right? Getting the depth. So like depth-wise, I'm not super worried. Defensively, I'm not super worried. Coaching, I'm concerned about because it's a complete question mark. And the top end of the roster, I'm concerned about.
Yeah.
This team has 85 points or 105 points written all over it. You know, and I think that's what we said the last 2 years, or at least 2 years ago is what we said.
Yeah.
I'm going to stick with my cautious optimism because I think I'd be sad otherwise.
I think cautious optimism is a good way of putting it. We both have said we're probably not as good as that 105-point team. We're certainly, hopefully, not as bad as that 85-point team. So if that means we regress towards the mean and we're going to be a 95, 96, 97-point team fighting for a playoff spot, I'll take that. I'll take that over what happened this year for sure.
All right.
Okay. This was fun.
To wrap up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you all for joining. I think was that what we said? We go about 2 weeks from now. It'll be around the end of the Cup final, and that'll be a good draft preview. Do you know what the date of the NHL draft is?
I believe it's 28-29.
It's that late?
I thought so.
That's June 27, 28.
Oh, 27,
That's crazy. Okay.
So we got a decision to make. We either go 16. Well, we don't have to do this in front of everyone, but who cares? We either go 16 and 30. That's a true every 2 week rotation. But then we're actually still 2 weeks away from the draft. But then on the 30th, we're the day before free agency, or we skip 3 weeks and we go on the 23rd.
So we have to do June 30th is the must because that's. You know, that's day before free agency. Yeah. And it could be, you know, might also have to do July 1st. We'll see what happens. If they sign Mitch Marner, we're doing a show July 1st.
Okay, I'm ready.
Otherwise, that's actually, I got to book that day off because the holiday's a Tuesday. That's a gimme long weekend. I think we'll play it by ear, but you know, we could also do like 16th and then closer to the draft or something like that. But we'll figure it out. Make sure you're subscribed, notifications. Follow Clay on Twitter. You'll be up to date on whatever we're doing. You don't use your X account anymore? You're done? I haven't opened that app in a while, and life is better for it. Okay. Maybe I should take your advice. I was a scroller, man. I would just scroll and scroll and scroll. And taking that off the home screen has been good for the mental. Good for you. Good for you. I wish I had your resolve. I've just replaced it with other things. It's not that okay. Good. That's fair. Well, I appreciate your honesty. All right, folks. Thank you all very much for joining. Like I said, make sure you subscribe, notifications, all that stuff. If you missed any part of the show, you can rewind back to the beginning. You can also find it on your favorite podcast platform in a matter of a few minutes. Clay, any parting words this Monday night? Great to be back with you, Parker. And I think we did a pretty good job of recapping 5 weeks of news with a bit of predictions in there as well. So, looking forward to getting together again, whether it's in the next 2 or 3 weeks. But, good to be back. Excellent. Thank you all very much for joining. We will catch you all next time.